Well, I'm here with my friend James Shoshone on this beautiful day in paradise, and we've talked before about kind of your upbringing and another time of ranches you've been on and who you worked around and some of the common people we've been around and how we kind of got to know each other and been around each other some, been to some brandings and stuff together, and got a lot of respect for you. And one thing I know nothing about, I can take a pencil and I try to write my name, and it's hard for anybody to even identify it. Mm-hmm. I have zero talent when it comes to drawing a picture any more than a stick horse or a stick man. But James, he's got quite a talent in that department, and not in the stick horse, but in the art department. And one thing I admire, I think he's like Charlie Russell in the sense that you can look at his art and tell that he's been there. He's seen the wrecks, he's, you know, the way the horses are, the way the rope is. It's not Hollywood, it's not imitation. You know, I see some of this artwork. You look at the way the gear's laying and everything, it's like, that doesn't even function that way. Mm-hmm. It can't happen like that. But the artist is an artist. He's not a cowboy. He's not somebody that's, you know, ever put a bridle on or you know, they don't know. And, you know, their spurs are on upside down or some ridiculous thing like that. And that's not what it looks like. You know, I've seen some really good artists do some really good subjects, and their hands are backwards when they're dallying or something like that. It's like, are you kidding? It'd be tangled up. You can't. It won't work that way.
It doesn't happen that way.
James has been around, and you know, he's a good roper, and he's been around a lot of good hands and seen a lot of good stuff and a lot of roping, and he has a lot of art that's has to do with roping and a lot of Native American art. I'll let you talk about that. That's not something I know much about. I grew up close to the reservation at Hawaii, and a lot of good friends, you know, are Native Americans, but there's a lot of that history I don't know, so I'll let you talk about that. So you want to go through some of your artwork, or where'd you get started with the art? You know, was it
I always tell people
with color crayons?
Yeah, first grade. Yeah, I would tell people I've been drawing since I was 3 years old. I don't know exactly, but I had an uncle I have an uncle. He's an artist, or was an artist, and he would sit and draw with a ballpoint pen, and I mean, just like a photograph. It looked like a photograph when he got done. And I would sit there as a young child, and I'd say, "Uncle, do you think I could draw that?" And he said, "Yeah." He says, "Sit down and here's a piece of paper and, you know, draw it." And anyway, maybe half a dozen times or whatever, he got tired of me, you know. "Hey, Uncle, you think I could draw that?" You know? And he goes, "I don't know." He says, "You need to just do it." So anyway, I tried to draw. And then in them days, it was in the 70s. So it was, I think the hottest movies were like Godzilla and King Kong and a lot of war movies. And so I started drawing that, you know. Believe it or not, King Kong was my favorite subject. But I mean,
it shouldn't be that hard to draw.
Yeah, just big old monkey. But anyhow, you know, my grandpa was in World War II. My dad was in Vietnam, and I admired soldiers. So I did a lot of tanks and, you know, battle scenes and stuff. Mm-hmm. Of course, I mean, it's just a child's imagination after watching John Wayne's Iwo Jima or something like that. You know. Yeah. Anyway. From there, when I got into grade school, I would draw, only thing I knew was Indian, our ceremonies, and feathers, and I love feathers. I don't know what it is about feathers, but anyhow, so I'd draw them, and my teacher would buy them, you know, for $1 a piece. A hawk head or something, eagle head or something, she would buy it. She just loved it. TP, something like that. And anyway, I said, hey, there's something to this, you know. Can make a little bit of money, because I mean, we were poor. We were really poor. You know, the house I was raised in didn't even have running water, and electricity, you know, way out in the sticks. You know, closest town's 12 miles, I think it was Minden, and we didn't even get to, you know, you didn't get to go to McDonald's once a year or something like that, you know. But so I started with the native, you know, and native style of artwork, and I have one here, and that's the first one I think I will show. And it's a warrior in a war bonnet with a coup stick or a Indian flag, they call it, and the Indian flag represents what the American flag represents to the Americans. And briefly, so every one of these feathers that are on the horse or on the warrior's head or on the staff, they're earned. Some people call them coup feathers, which is a war exploit that had taken place, whether he stole a horse, killed an enemy, wounded an enemy, or just counted coup on an enemy. And every one of those feathers is spoken for, and it represents a story. And then in his right hand you'll see a quirt that he uses to whip, because Indians didn't use spurs on their horses, and then they didn't even use a bridle, they just use a rope around their lower jaw. And of course they like to decorate their horses, so they put a lot of finery on there. There's beadwork, and as the American traders came, they would trade beads and stuff like that. So Indians started decorating their horses and their own selves with like the wool and things like that. But it all has a representation and it has a meaning. And anyway, I wanted to start with the native, because that's what I started with, was native drawing, and this is an older one, about 96 I think I did.
And
this.
That would be a war chief.
It would be a war chief. Yep. He would be he'd be the boss, he'd be the man. Yeah, there's no I think even our native people have gotten away from the society men. They call them society, and that's like having a cow boss, buckaroo boss, and the leadoff man, and in even native culture they had a chief, and then they have sub chiefs, and then they had society men, and it kept everybody in line. And when the government put the Indians on reservation, they took all that away, so we're all the same. And then with that, it took away their pride, took away everything from us, and put a little alcohol in there. There you are. But anyway, so back to my artwork. When I was at the IL, in high school, I used to draw bull riders. And it's like I said, the girls, they're liking the bull riders and whatnot, and I'd be sitting there, and here comes the girls. They're watching me. Oh, you're so good, da 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 da, and then, rub on you, whatever. But anyhow, I end up giving them drawings. I always wonder where all them drawings are at, that I did of these bull riders and rodeo men and cowboys and Indian cowboys. But
probably in some lady's closet.
Somewheres, or wherever, And then some people put my artwork on jackets and stuff, designs, and it made me real proud to see that, Hey, somebody, they noticed that, there's a nice piece of artwork, so they used it. So anyways, when I was at the IL, there was an artist. His name was Dave Hall. And Dave was living in Mountain City, Nevada, and then he illustrated a book for a guy named Baxter Black. And Baxter Black was a veterinarian for Simplot, and they did this book called The Buckskin Mare. And I bought it at Capriola's, and I was like, man, I love this artwork. I like Charlie Russell, I like Will James, Ernie Morse. They've been big influences in my life, but I would have to say that looking at the Buckskin Mare, and Dave Hall illustrated every one of those, that whole poem for Baxter Black, and they put that book together, and it was like, wow, this is phenomenal. And I appreciate fine art. So from that, I adapted a style from Dave Hall, which is the black face. It doesn't really say who the man is or anything like that, but you can see that these are a couple of cowboys that got a couple of fresh horses, our buckaroos, and the boss is like, how you like them, boys? And I mean, the horses will line out, they're already broke, they're in hackamores, and I mean, it's just a morning, typical ranch morning, and they got long tapaderos and hair ropes on their McCarty. Their McCartys are hair ropes, and people notice that. The one guy's got woolly chaps, the other guy's got chinks. One guy's got a black hat, one guy's got a white hat, got a quirt, which you don't see quirts nowadays on ranches. You didn't even see them when I started. I carried one just because I thought it was bravado, I guess, is, you know. And then the boss, he's in a 2-rein. And you don't even see that nowadays. But, you know, they tie in their tails up and take a little pride in their horses and things like that. So
Tapaderos.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about. James knows, you know, the quirt, the McCarty's tucked in the belt, the Tapaderos, the 2-rein, the knot in the horse's tail, the detail. You know, you just know that he's been there and done that. Dave Hall, when I first was aware of him, he was around Jordan Valley before he came over to Mountain City. But that's who done a lot of the artwork for the Big Loop.
Yeah.
You see it on, well, on the announcer stand at Jordan Valley. But T-shirts and whatnot, I guess they commissioned him to do some of those drawings for him, and I got some of his stuff.
Yeah.
But so then,
so another artist is that I can make mention of is Larry Butte.
Yep.
He was a friend. He is a friend of mine, and very instrumental in my artwork. He used to do a lot of work for Capriolas, and did their bits, did their whole catalog, and
a lot of murals.
Yeah, a lot of murals. And I used to admire that. Well, that's the artist part of me. But here, again, it has I don't have the black face on here. I did a full detail on his face, the horse, everything's got full detail except for the man in the back, which is just silhouetted. And that was kind of to get away from, I suppose, rushing it. You know, you want to see it done. And here, in this particular picture, is Buckaroo's roping, and it really doesn't to a buckaroo. It's a cool idea, but in the reality of it, you know, it's like, well, who's going to rope a calf out in the open with a big fancy loop like that? Because they'd have to have somebody pushing him for one thing, or you know, and it's a slick. He's got no brand, he's got no earmark. But the reality of it, I was after more of the flow of the ropes and the concept and the beauty of the roping part. Not so much the situation. But there again, you got the Tapaderos, chinks, big concho on the cantle, and Buckaroos love silver. You know, they love silver. The horse is decorated, has got a silver bit, silver headstall, rawhide reins, tied tail, tassel underneath the cinch, and all of my cowboy pictures or buckaroo pictures, they all have a single rig, because that's what I started with, and a lot of buckaroos still rode with a single rig, but then, you know, everyone's got the two double rig now. Yeah, and he's got the large spurs, big roweled silver spurs. But anyway, that's another picture. And here again we go back to the black face. Guy sliding his horse. It's called working on the 11s. I think you could talk more about that, Martin, than I when I was riding colts. I would love to make a horse slide, but I didn't know the concept. You know, Chan tried to share it with me, but he would slide him across the mud. Yeah. And I never did figure it out. But
the 11s, if you're not familiar, that's when the horse slides to the stop. He makes two long marks, and you turn around. It's 11, 1-1. One long mark. So that's where the 11 terminology comes from, making 11s. And hopefully it's one long 11 and not a bunch of short little bouncy 11s.
Skipping along.
But yeah.
But I like how this guy's got his feet, I guess you can feel it. His feet are down. He's sitting down in his saddle. I'm trying to show the suppleness of a snaffle bit colt.
Yeah, his mouth is closed.
And collected. Maybe not so much arc as a guy would really want. I think it's real straight. Now, as I look back, it's hindsight, you know, but it should have a little more arc to show that he's more getting in the ground than, and I don't know, you could critique that is how you would want a horse.
Yeah. You know, a lot of horses get real round in the back, so the back of your saddle's up, kind of like a bucking horse or a horse with a big hump in his back. Same thing.
Yeah.
Different, of course, but same thing. They're bent in the loin a lot. You know, if you want me to bash it a little bit, he's a little overbent in the face slightly.
Okay.
But
so you want him straight, more his nose natural.
Yeah, when they get overbent, when their face gets past vertical, it changes how they balance and everything. Like they don't normally do that.
Okay.
And what happens is they get too yielding to the bit too much, and then they have trouble balancing. And a lot of people get them overbent or overflexed, and not to get into that too much.
Yeah.
But it changes how they balance. You know, if you look at cutting horses when they turn turn the reins loose, their nose is out and their head is down. And you know, if they're going to be agile, it's like you know, playing any sport. You lower your center of gravity, you get your hands out. Well, that's kind of what a horse does typically. Is they lower their center. You know, they get low and get their nose out. But you know, war horses and bridle horses and that, there's a different theory. You know, we want them up, and you know, not to get into a long conversation on horsemanship, but yeah, the more I guess the higher level of horses, you wouldn't see them overbent like that.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to identify was the suppleness of the horse, but also you can see in his hands, the McCarty, how long it is, and how they actually hold the extra coil.
Extra coil.
Yeah, and that slips in their hand. Buckaroos that been there and seen this, they know what it's about. So, and that's what I'm trying to convey in that picture.
No, you know, and I mean that isn't, obviously that's not a horse trainer. That's cowboy buckaroo horseman. And again, that's a realistic picture. You know, your average cowboy isn't going to have the high level of horsemanship I'm talking about, and the picture perfect. Yeah, that's what you would see on a ranch. You know, or a ranch cowboy getting a horse ready to go to town. You know, for a horse show. That's very much what you would see. I mean, you drew what you've seen, so that's a more authentic picture than what I just described. For what it is.
And here we have a native buckaroo, full detail, full facial detail, but I'd put a 2-rein on him. And if you'll notice, the 2-rein Boselle is a double Boselle. And I was at the ZX, and that would have been the first time I'd ever seen one of those. I'd never seen that before, and I thought it was so neat. I had to have one. Well, I had it for a week, and I traded it off.
So you want to explain the double, or you want me to?
You explained the double, but I wanted to point the double Boselle out, you know.
I noticed that nose band, and without looking at it too close. So what a double Boselle is you might, like a typical Boselle would be around, say, 12 plat, 16 plat, whatever, 8 plat even. But they have 2 round Boselles side by side that lays flat on the horse's face, and then the nose band goes over both of them. And the idea is, depending on how stiff it is, it lays flatter underneath your bridle, but it doesn't have as much give vertical. It's pretty pliable laterally, I guess, but not so much vertical, right?
Yes.
So that's, and you can see the detail there. There's 2 cords basically laying side by side on the horse's nose, which makes the nose band a little thicker. Yeah, but you can see the buttons on the reins, the chains, even on the McCarty, you can kind of see the little dots making the different pattern. You know, he's got some white feet, different marks, and the tail's tied up, flower carved saddle. You got all that detail. His coils are even. That's one thing. I don't know why some people, you know, they got their rope tied on their saddle and they purposely have the coils all different lengths, right?
Yep.
Like what? You know, I don't know.
It's like they take no pride.
Is that how they comb their hair?
Yeah.
Where it's all going in a direction?
Yeah. How do you?
It's just, you know,
how you want to look?
And maybe it's just you know, people in this area, but you know, your coils are as even as you can get them, and you know, I might coil my rope up 6 times before I finally get it I'm not talking while I'm roping, but when I'm going to tie it on my saddle,
Yeah.
I'll tie it up and damn it, one is tighter than the other, so I'll recoil it, but I don't know, it's just...
So what I'm trying to convey here is the pride that a man could take in himself and in his horse.
Yep.
And and then it goes to the two rein. There's a lost art in itself on the ranch, and then the big loop, riata. Single rig, I don't know, tapaderos. I did this drawing, actually did this for Spider Teller, and 2000, and he traded me a partial payment on a saddle.
Oh yeah.
And then when Spider passed away, his wife let me take it and make prints. So this is one of those, and it's a high grade print. But anyhow, that's what that's pretty neat how you see it. We got one more, no, two more. Then here again, I was at the ZX when I drew this. It was 1995. I used to do a lot of really bright colors, and that was from the Oklahoma Indians, the Oklahoma Archie Black Owl, Black Bear Boston, Doctate Nevacoy. They were, they call it flat style. Anyway, I really like, because being a native, I like the bright colors, obviously, like in the first one I showed y'all with the warrior. But our beadwork and it's like you're saying, I'm here. I've arrived, and I want you to notice me. But it's kind of like that with buckaroos anyway. I mean, when you go to town, they put on their best, and they got their best horse, and they want to show off what they can do, and they want it to be known that they're there. So anyway, this guy, he's bridling up his horse, and he's got a spade bit in his hand, and there's a lot more detail in this than I've put in a lot of pictures, but there's
a lot of detail. You can see the buttons on his quirt.
Yep.
Rawhide buttons on his quirt. The rope's coiled up nice and even. And this is something else in this area you see, in a lot of other areas you might not, is the loop is larger than the coils.
Yes.
You know why that is?
So that they could grab their rope and build a loop, right?
You see guys that have the loop the same size as the coils, and the hondu's sucked up here by the rope strap.
I've seen that, yeah.
And if they don't have a swivel hondu, they got crooked hondus.
Oh.
That hondu sits outside the coils, and it doesn't have as near much of a chance of getting crooked.
I never knew that.
Because when you pull that hondu up, it either goes this way or it goes this way, and then you got a crooked hondu.
Twist.
I'd give these people ropes, and they'd tie it on like that. I'd sell them a rope. And in a week, it's got a crooked hondu. And I go, wow, geez, I can't be selling ropes with crooked hondu, so I'd give them another rope. And I'd go to work on that rope, and the hondu'd come straight, and I'd go ahead and use it, But I finally figured out why. It's because they don't leave their hondu outside. And nobody ever told me that. I mean, I got pictures of my great granddad, and all the buckaroos in this area, pretty much. Their loop of their rope when it's coiled up is larger than to whatever extent, larger than the coils, and the hondu is outside. But yeah, like you say, you could put a blindfold on and reach down there and grab your loop because it's outside. So now you start recoiling it, stack your coils. Or you could take it the other way and reach down here, and the tail is longer than your coils. The tail's not up here. It's hanging down.
Yep.
And you look at all the pictures of the old buckaroos way back. I got black and white pictures of the old family, my ancestors, and of course around Elko, and all them old pictures. The tail's hanging down, and the hondu's outside, and the loop is bigger.
Yep.
And you look around here at these ranch rodeos and stuff, 90% or 80% of the guys are still carry their ropes like that. Yeah, the detail here is really cool.
Full basket stamp.
Yeah.
And then a choker. That's one thing we didn't emphasize on was our martingale. I've always heard it called a choker, but
big silver concho, and the detail of the Navajo saddle blanket there.
Yeah.
Real pretty pattern, and the colors are distinct. Yeah.
He's got a 2-rein on too.
Yeah.
He's got a 2-rein, going to bridle his horse up. So I was just trying to emphasize, trying to get something done in the morning time.
A lot of tradition there.
Yeah. It says Native American buckaroo, spade bits, buckaroo wits, Bozels and Romels, but it goes back to the other saying, and I have to share it off camera because it's not appropriate for camera. One more here.
3 crosses.
Yeah, the cross. Las Cruces bit, and then Cortez's brand and the Tojon brand. Yeah, and it's just more historical than anything, and identifying to the bridle is what I was, the cross, because that's Las Cruces, that's what it represents, is the cross. Yeah. And anyhow.
Las Cruces bit, it's real straight. And that's like the cross.
Yeah.
As opposed to the Santa Barbara, Santa Susana, a lot of the other traditional bits.
Yeah, a lot of silver, a lot of detail in the reins, and a lot more detail on the horse than anything, I think, with the cross etching.
That horse's head is really smooth, really, his mane, it just looks real soft, it flows really nice. You look at his eyes real soft, and that's a really, really pretty horse head.
Thank you. Well, that's all the artwork that I brought, but if there's anything else.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Again, I admire your work. You can tell you've been there and done that. And even like the dimensions of the quirt. It might not be what they have here or there somewhere else, but the dimensions of the quirt, how long the popper is, where the buttons are, how long the handle is, how long the string is, and all that is very traditional. And the reins, and just everything is, it's all in proportion. It's all the way it would function. And that's the thing. A lot of people can draw a picture, but they don't get the proportions right. The detail's not there. And I never really, I don't know anything about art. Like I say, I have trouble enough drawing my name where somebody can identify it, but I didn't know that you followed this many different artists. I know Larry Butte, I know him, and Dave Hall, and these different artists and the different styles. I see it now that you pointed out. I just thought you woke up someday and thought you'd do it this way or that way.
Yeah. I think Mark Williams, when I worked for him at the ZX, he told me, he said, you're going to learn from everybody. You're going to learn, even cowboying. Even somebody that doesn't know anything, you're going to learn from them.
You learn how not to do it.
Yeah, that. And then like people like yourself, been there and done that and experienced it, and have a knack to tell people in their terms how to do it, to get that, convey that across to them in the English language, or by yelling, or whatever it takes, to help somebody to learn. But he told me, you're going to learn from everybody. So, and I took that with my artwork too. And I always think I have a little bit of savvy about that, but I'm not formally taught. I've never went to art school. I never, I used, when I was in high school, they would make you draw a ball in the shadows, and I just could not. I just got so bored. I was like, I don't want to draw that. You want me to draw that pickup? Oh yeah, I can draw that pickup. You want me to draw that tree? I'll draw that tree. But I did not want to draw a cylinder, or a circle, or a square, or a rectangle. But now, as an artist, I look back at it. Okay, horses, colts. If your foundation isn't good, then you're going to have a hole in it as you go to the bridle. And I've been thinking about that now. I think maybe I should have paid attention to cylinders and this and that, but I still use them in there. But I'm afraid to go make a mistake. And it's like, once you make a mistake, it's like, how do you correct it? How do you fix that? And anyway, there's a mind block
in a given drawing you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the dimensions.
You just do like with my horses. You wreck them and fix them. Learn from your mistakes. I look at a mistake as a learning opportunity.
Okay.
When I was braiding, I would get halfway through a knot or something. I'd go, I could finish this. It'd be fine. But I'd see a different way of doing it. I'd pull it all out, start over. I was more interested in learning than completing it.
I had friends that braided at ranches, and I would say, "How come you cut that off? I would have bought it from you," you know. But they weren't happy with it. They weren't happy with their work, you know.
Well, you know, especially with the rawhide, you don't have any cost in it, just your time.
Yeah.
You know, you skin the cow, you process the strings, and so it's not like silver work or something. You spend money for the material. No, you don't spend any money for rawhide. It's all your labor. So.
I remember my rawhiding friend, he says, "Well, that cow's not going to make the company any money, but she sure in hell will make me some," you know.